Hey guys, it's Chris and welcome back to another House of the Dragon video, and today I want to talk about the little teaser they put out about the upcoming weeks. So a little episode 2 and beyond preview, but I'll only be going over the newer shots here in this teaser as opposed to the ones we've already seen before because I've spoke about most of these shots in other trailer breakdowns. Let's jump over here to the trailer. Alright, so this scene here, we'll see a little bit more of this in a second. This is going to be when Rhaenyra lands on Dragonstone when Damon's taking the dragon eggs. You can see Damon here. He's in the middle with Mysaria. He's taking the dragon egg, about to leave Dragonstone. This is just after the last episode, likely when Viserys sent him off and he was going to go back to the Vale, but he's not going to return to his bronze bitch. He's going to try to take off across the narrow sea. And she is pregnant with child here, so he wants to put a dragon egg in his child's crib, as that's what Targaryens do. But Viserys says no, and sends Otto Hightower here with his men and some Kingsguard to stop Damon. And of course, this is when Rhaenyra flies by on Syrax and does this flyby. But the interesting part is she lands behind them. She actually lands behind Otto Hightower. We saw that, and we'll see that again in a few minutes. So it's interesting, is it going to be her supporting Damon, or is she there to support her father? Because Viserys did send Otto Hightower and his men to go stop Damon from taking the dragon egg. So going to be interesting there with their relationship, how this plays out. Or is she just there watching? Maybe she's not really supporting anybody, but she's now being kind of pulled in two directions. She is the heir now, so now she feels like she has to support her father, which she does anyway, but she also likes her Uncle Damon. So that's going to be an interesting little dynamic. This is an interesting shot here as Rhaenyra starts her voiceover from My Blood talking about the prophecy. This looks to be on Dragonstone, and Damon is climbing down here. If I let that play a second, you can see somebody climbing down right there. It's really hard to see, but this may be him on Dragonstone getting down into side the Dragon Mount or something, where some of these other dragons just hang out and nest and all that kind of stuff. So I'm assuming that's what that is. Hard to tell, but we do know we see the shots of him going in and finding dragon eggs to probably take with him to Essos and send with Mysaria. So that's likely what this is, and she starts her voiceover here, a young Rhaenyra. So we see her down here reading this prophecy. This is really interesting. They're playing up this prophecy a lot. And while I think that's very cool for House of the Dragon, for the show itself, as far as bringing in some magical elements, all that good stuff, you got to think about how Game of Thrones ended. This, Dagger is going to be in here. Her prophecy, basically he says to her in a little bit in a voiceover, this weight is even more than, sitting on the Iron Throne. So she knows the secret about Aegon the Conqueror, knowing about the White Walkers. Again, not that they know all the details, but now kind of thinking about it after episode 1, when they revealed this, if you think about how Game of Thrones ended, it didn't really take Targaryen on the throne. I mean, it did take a Targaryen to help, for sure. I mean, Dany, for sure, was a huge reason why they won this battle. She flew her dragons up there to Winterfell. She burned a lot of whites and all that good stuff as well. But she didn't technically kill the Night King herself or anything like that. It wasn't even Jon Snow being a Targaryen. It was Arya, and it's just what they chose to do. I don't think it'll be Arya in the books for whatever de facto leader of the White Walkers there will be in the books, because there is no Night King yet. But the point being that the prophecy is cool, but knowing how it ends kind of diminishes what it all means. And of course, this prophecy got lost during the reign of the Mad King or whatever, and then Robert's Rebellion. So Rhaegar apparently had to read this from somewhere too, because he didn't hear it from his father apparently. So this is the same prophecy of the prince that was promised that Rhaegar apparently read, where he said, "I must be a warrior," and he's the one who actually completed the Pact of Ice and Fire by marrying Lyanna Stark and having Jon Snow or Aegon Targaryen. So really cool, but in my opinion, kind of diminished by season 8 of Game of Thrones. This was interesting here. I don't know where this is. This castle over here looks to be burnt. To my knowledge, there were no other castles burned as far as like in Aegon's Conquest or anything like that, other than Harrenhal, and this is definitely not Harrenhal. It's way too small. We've seen Harrenhal before in Game of Thrones, so I'm not sure exactly where this castle is. It could be Old High Tide, but again, it looks burnt to me. Now, I could be just seeing that wrong here, but if you look at it closely, you see the blackened walls and the different odd-shaped tips here of this castle. And also, to my knowledge, as far as the Dance of the Dragons itself, there were no more castles burnt. There were definitely fights. You had the battles of Tumbleton, the battle at the God's Eye, things like that, but there were no castles burnt to my knowledge, unless they're changing some stuff up. Also to mention, this is a mountainous region here, and you see all the mountains in the background. There's really only mountains in Westeros and the Westerlands. That would be near Castle Rock and all that stuff. I mean, there's a good bit of mountains and probably some castles that are not on the map, obviously. In Dorne, kind of northern Dorne, there's some mountains, and then some below the Crownlands area and the Stormlands, but I don't know what this castle is. Feel free to let me know in the comments if you think this may be a certain castle. We see Harwin Strong here. I believe this is going to be Breakbones. He'll have a pretty major role as far as his affair with Rhaenyra. Now, this, of course, is a rumored affair, but if you look at her kids, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey, they have brown hair and look like Harwin Strong. Then we have a shot here of Rhaenyra and then Meraxes and Damon flying over her ship here. So she's out to sea. Obviously, you see this is Caraxes, and Damon, you see the wings on his feet. Remember, he is slightly malformed, or whatever you want to call it, got this elongated body. So this may be when he returns from the War of the Stepstones to his brother in King's Landing, potentially. But I would imagine this is when Damon is either heading towards or leaving the Stepstones or something to that effect, because I do think Rhaenyra will take part in that with him, just from based off the teasers we've seen so far. But again, she is dressed up and not on Dragonback. This is where we have Viserys again talking to Rhaenyra about this secret, the prophecy that she just learned that was revealed last episode. Again, it's really cool to have this in here, but when you think about Season 8, it really comes down to almost nothing. Jon Snow didn't really do anything. I mean, he did in the aspect of, he got everybody together that he could, but it was just the North. There was not a united kingdom. So, again, prophecy doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to play out exactly. It can always be wrong for sure. But just the way they're playing this up almost is a disappointment even more for Game of Thrones Season 8. This is a shot we saw in the main teaser here of Rhaenyra and Laenor Velaryon, her husband. We will probably see that next episode or next couple episodes. They always intermarried to keep their purity, their blood purity, their dragon riding ability, which is why Velaryons, who did not used to be a dragon riding family, in this generation are now all dragon riders because they are intermarried with Targaryens. I believe this shot of Rhaenyra here, I believe this will be the first time we see older Rhaenyra. So I don't know. I believe this will probably be episode 6. I do think just the way they are showing it, her coming out and kind of appearing, from the darkness behind her, it just makes, to me, it looks like a shot I would use for the first time seeing her aged up. So I'm guessing this is episode 6. This is the older Rhaenyra. Once we see her, we will no longer see young Rhaenyra, young Alicent, all the younger characters. You can see her necklace here, her Valyrian steel necklace that Daemon gave her in episode 1. Now, this is a shot here we saw before as well, where they're down in the Red Keep, I believe, here with all the candles. Rhaenyra obviously has already been named heir, so this is where Alicent, you can see the look here. You're going to see the relationship start to kind of crumble here. Even at a young age, there'll start to be these splinters and all that stuff because everything has now changed. She was just kind of a carefree, Rhaenyra was, and wanted to ride dragons and eat cake and all that stuff that she played up in episode 1. And now she's got a lot on her shoulders, not only being heir to the Iron Throne, but now this prophecy, and it seems to be really weighted down by this thing. So as we saw where she's reading this prophecy about the prince that was promised. But they keep showing these little clips. This is still young Rhaenyra and Alicent at the Godswood. Again, there is not a heart tree that is a werewood tree in King's Landing in the book, so this has changed. They put a werewood as the heart tree again. But again, it's for these magical elements. So we'll see them spending some time out here and probably see them start to kind of drift apart, so to speak, as they start having more conversations. Now she's got this new weight on her shoulders, being heir and knowing this secret as well. So we'll see how much Alicent learns about that secret. This should be the first Black Council meeting here on Dragonstone. We see Rhaenyra coming in with her crown at this point. We got a couple Kingsguard that defected from the Greens, and then we have Daemon back here. So this should be one of the first, if not the first, council meeting. We see Rhaenys right here, and I believe this would be Baela. The question is what did they do with the ages here in the years? They did compress some things. They aged people up. This would be Baela, so this would be the daughter of Daemon and Laena Velaryon, but she's already older here, so this is definitely going to be a time jump. So I'd imagine this is going to be around episode 6, 7, 8, something like that. As we see the war, start to ramp up and the actual sides start to split apart, where they're called the Blacks and the Greens and all that good stuff. We see, we talked about Drahar, the crab feeder that Corlys Velaryon mentioned in episode 1. Here we see a shot of that. This is the War for the Stepstone. So we're going to see a lot of this battle. It's going to be the major battle in season 1 because the war doesn't technically start probably till at least season 2 as far as dragon versus dragon stuff and all that good stuff. But you see all the crabs here staking somebody down to the beach so the tide can come in and feed on them, which is why he is called the crab feeder. So going to be cool to see that. Now this is a cool shot here. This is the room on Dragonstone where the table was in Game of Thrones. I was saying this before about I was worried about the consistency between the shows, but apparently Stannis or somebody just had the table moved into this room. So this looks to be the room on Dragonstone. You see the kind of open area out here, the balcony, and this is where the table was in Game of Thrones, where Dany had her war councils and all that kind of stuff, and Stannis hung around with Melisandre, all that stuff on Dragonstone while he held the castle. So really cool to see this room again. So now this shot here I wanted to talk about because this is when Alicent obviously is queen. She is coming out of the royal carriage here. She's got on all this new garb, and she is following Viserys, if you can see right here. Everybody's clapping. So this is probably right after their wedding. This is still young Alicent, as you can see here. So they have now been married. The very cool shot of dragons and House Velaryon and showing their power coming to King's Landing. And this is not a war scene or anything. This is probably when Damon, I would imagine, returns from the Stepstones to present his crown to his brother. So if that's the case, this will be Damon returning to King's Landing after he's been exiled for a while and has been fighting his war on the Stepstones with Corlys Velaryon. Quick shot here again of Rhaenyra grabbing this dagger. They're really pushing the dagger and the prophecy thing. I think that's it's interesting. We didn't expect that, and we certainly didn't expect the old Aegon the Conqueror theory to be confirmed, but seems like they're putting a lot of weight into this prophecy here because she keeps talking about it and she's going back to this dagger. But again, it just bugs me that the way it turned out wasn't anything like the prophecy said it was supposed to be about the prince that was promised, at least in the show. So this is an interesting shot here. This could be one of two things, obviously. Either this is Aegon II being crowned in the Dragon Pit, or this is Rhaenyra being crowned, but in both cases, it's different people. In the books, Criston Cole puts the crown on Aegon II, and then her uncle Damon, at that time her husband, puts the crown on Rhaenyra on Dragonstone. But I believe this is the same guy we saw in the Black Council in the previous shot, so I'm believing that he may be handing the crown to Damon to put on her or whatever, unless they change that from the books. But obviously, somebody's getting crowned here, and the only two people that can be, that's either Rhaenyra on Dragonstone or Aegon II in King's Landing at the Dragon Pit. Another shot here of the crab feeder. This is what Drahar, the crab feeder, does to people. You can see this is pretty nasty. Interesting shot here. This is in the throne room. We saw in the early teaser Damon getting yanked up by the Kingsguard. He's got shorter hair here. So this is after he comes back to King's Landing from exile from fighting his war with Corlys Velaryon on the Stepstones. But he given his crown, offered his crown to Viserys, and that makes peace again for a while. But he's done something else here. I believe I know what this is, but I'm not 100% sure, so I won't say anything for spoilers. And Viserys getting mad here, actually holding a blade to his brother's throat. Next shot, it kind of feeds into what I believe this is about, and that is Rhaenyra here getting married to Laenor Velaryon. You can see them dancing, but she's got her eyes over here on Sir Criston Cole. This is him. At this point, he is the Kingsguard personal protector of her, and she is married to him, but looking over at him. So that's going to be some interesting TV, to say the least. This is a new shot here. This is interesting here because they're changing the ages of people. So this would be Laena Velaryon. This is the Sea Snake's daughter. This should be Jacaerys and Lucerys right here. And then this, I can only imagine, would be Baela. Baela is the daughter of Laena. They look pretty much the same age to me. Maybe she does look a little younger, but I don't know what they're doing. I don't know who else this could be unless it's just another family member that's not mentioned. But Baela would be the daughter of Laena and Damon. So I believe this is going to be Baela Targaryen, and then she has a twin as well. Then we have the shot here of Syrax and Rhaenyra here. This is where she lands on Dragonstone again during the Damon and Otto Hightower standoff. The question is, who's she there to support, or is she there just kind of watching? I believe this is going to be Meleys and Sea Smoke. This would be cool to see Laenor riding Sea Smoke and then Meleys with Rhaenys, and I believe they're going to take part in the War for the Stepstones, at least in the show. And then we talked about Drahar, the crab feeder. I believe this is going to be who this is. And then finally, we have Vhagar. Vhagar in his full glory, the biggest dragon of them all. Only second to Balerion the Black Dread. Look at the size of this thing. This is probably the Dragon Mount or something on Dragonstone. Look at this. This is a building. This is like a keep here, wherever this is, and look how giant Vhagar is. Anyway, guys, I will leave it there. I've rambled on way too long. I really appreciate you hanging out watching this, and thank you for your time for watching this. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Really appreciate all the support, especially you guys on Patreon. And a huge shout out to my executive Patreon SmokeScreen producers. And of course, if you dig what I do here, please give these videos a like, comment, and a share. And of course, do me a huge favor, hit that subscribe button and join us on Sundays as we live stream right after every episode of House of the Dragon. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.